Captain stood on the bridge of the warship Eternal Dawn, his hands clasped behind his back. The viewing screen showed nothing but empty space, but he wasn't looking at the present. He was watching the past. "Play the recording," he said quietly. The screen flickered to life. 50,000 years ago, Earth hung in space like a blue jewel. Cities covered the continents. Lights sparkled across the night side. 7 billion humans called it home. Then the ships came. They appeared by the thousands, filling the sky with metal and fire. The Galactic Council had arrived. 47 alien species, united in one terrible decision. Humanity was too dangerous. Humanity had to die. Watched the beams of energy fall from orbit. He had seen this recording 1,000 times, but it never got easier. The oceans boiled. The atmosphere burned. In 6 hours, Earth became a ball of molten rock. Everything humanity had ever built turned to ash. But the recording didn't end there. There, pointed at the screen, do you see them? 3 small ships, barely visible, slipped away from Earth's moon. They moved in different directions, running silent, their engines cold. The Council fleet never noticed them. They were too busy destroying a world. "Those 3 ships saved us all," said. Commander Aura stepped forward. She was younger than, but her eyes held the same ancient anger. "The siege ships," she said, "got them out just in time." The recording shifted. It showed the interior of one siege ship. A young woman with tied-back hair moved frantically through the corridors. This was the scientist who had seen the truth when others were blind. She had known the Council would attack. She had prepared. 10,000 people on each ship, Aura continued. Frozen in, DNA samples from every living thing on Earth, all of humanity's knowledge stored in quantum drives. On the screen reached the bridge. Tears ran down her face as she looked at Earth one last time. The planet was glowing red now, dying. She pressed a button and the ship jumped into faster-than-light speed. The stars stretched into lines. Earth disappeared forever. Turned away from the screen. Around him, the bridge crew stood silent. Every person here knew this story. It was carved into their souls. "And the others traveled for 10 years, said. They went beyond the Milky Way to a galaxy the Council had never explored. They found a world with blue skies and clean water. They woke up the sleepers. They built a new home." "And they remembered," Aura added. Her voice was hard as iron. "Every generation remembered what the Council did. Every child learned the names of the 47 species who voted to kill us." The screen changed again. Now it showed a planet covered in forests and cities. This was Haven, the world that became humanity's new home. But these weren't the primitive settlements of refugees. These were towering structures of glass and metal that reached into the clouds. Ships moved through the sky using technology that bent physics itself. 50,000 years, said. We didn't just survive, we grew stronger, smarter. We advanced in ways the Council never imagined. He walked to the window and looked out at the fleet surrounding his ship. 500 warships hung in space, each one bristling with weapons that could tear apart planets. But they were more than weapons. They were the promise that humanity had made 50,000 years ago. "We will return, we will have justice." "Sir," a young officer called out. His name was, and he was one of the best pilots in the fleet. "We're approaching the border of Council space." Nodded, status of the fleet. "All ships ready," Aura reported. "Weapons charged, shields at full power, quantum drives functioning perfectly." Allowed himself a small smile. Quantum drives. The Council still used conventional faster-than-light engines that took days to cross a solar system. Human quantum drives could fold space itself. They could appear anywhere, anytime, faster than light could travel. It was just one of many advantages humanity had developed. "Send the signal to all ships," ordered. "We cross the border in 1 hour. From this moment forward, we are at war." The bridge crew moved with practiced efficiency. They had trained their entire lives for this moment. Every human in the fleet had. This wasn't just a military operation. This was the fulfillment of a promise made by dying Earth. Pulled up a holographic display. It showed the current map of the Milky Way. The Galactic Council controlled 3/4 of the galaxy. They had grown fat and comfortable over 50,000 years. They thought they were safe. They thought humanity was extinct, just a story told to frighten new species. They were wrong. Captain, Ara said softly, do you think they remember us? Considered the question. Some of them might. The old species, the ones who were there when Earth died, but most of the Council is different now. New species have joined, old ones have left. To most of them, we're just a myth. Good, Ara said. Her hand rested on her weapon. Let them think we're ghosts. It will make it easier. The hour passed quickly. The fleet moved forward as one, crossing the invisible line that marked Council territory. Alarms didn't sound. No defense fleet appeared. The Council had no idea that humanity had returned. Thought about the woman who had saved them all. She had died 500 years after reaching Haven, surrounded by children, but before she died, she had made everyone promise to remember. Remember Earth. Remember the injustice. Remember that humanity deserved to exist. All ships report ready, announced. Straightened his uniform. Behind him, he could feel the weight of 50,000 years of waiting. All the generations who had lived and died on Haven, knowing they would never see this moment. All the children who had grown up with stories of Earth. All the engineers and scientists who had built these ships, these weapons, this fleet. Then let's remind the galaxy, said, that humanity doesn't forgive, and we never forget. The fleet moved deeper into Council space, silent as death itself. The war had begun. Admiral watched the Council patrol ships through his tactical display. There were 6 of them, small vessels that looked like they had been built 1,000 years ago. Compared to human technology, they might as well have been made of wood and paper. They haven't detected us yet, said officer from her station. She was humanity's best intelligence specialist, able to hack into any system the Council used. Of course they haven't, replied. Our stealth systems are 50,000 years ahead of their sensors. To them, we're invisible. The patrol ships belonged to 2 species. 3 were crewed by the krill, insect-like creatures with hard shells and too many legs. The other 3 belonged to the Vex, beings made of living crystal that communicated through light pulses. Both species had been at the vote 50,000 years ago. Both had raised their hands to destroy Earth. Permission to engage, sir, asked Pilot. His hands hovered over the controls, eager. Not yet, said. I want them to see us first. I want them to know what's coming. He pressed a button. Outside, the cloaking field around his ship deactivated. Suddenly, the human warship appeared on every Council sensor within 100 light years. The Council ships panicked immediately. Alarms blared. The vessels broke formation, trying to scatter like frightened animals. Now ordered. His hands moved across his controls. The human ship didn't fire weapons. It didn't need to. Instead, it sent out a pulse of quantum energy that passed through the Council ships like a ghost through a wall. Every system on the 6 patrol ships died at once. Engines stopped. Life support flickered. Weapons went dark. The ships tumbled through space, completely helpless. Disable complete, reported. No casualties, all crew members alive. Good, said. He believed in justice, not murder. These patrol crews probably weren't even born when Earth died. They were just soldiers following orders. But their leaders needed to learn that humanity had returned. Opened a communication channel to the disabled ships. His message would be translated into every language the Council knew. Attention Council vessels. This is Admiral of the Human Defense Fleet. 50,000 years ago, your government destroyed our and killed 7 billion people. You thought you erased us from existence. You were wrong. He paused, letting his words sink in. We have returned. Not for mindless revenge, but for justice. Your leaders will answer for what they did. This is your only warning. Tell your superiors that humanity remembers. Tell them that we are coming. Reactivated one ship systems by remote control. Just enough power for them to limp home and deliver his message. Let them go, he ordered. The human warship vanished again, cloaking field reactivating. They left the 5 disabled ships floating in space, their crews terrified and confused. The 6th ship's engines flickered to life, and it ran for home as fast as it could. 3 days later, the Council High Command received the message. The building was enormous, a structure that housed representatives from 47 different species. It sat on a planet called Unity, which the Council considered the center of galactic civilization. The message from the patrol caused immediate chaos. "Humans?" demanded the Krill ambassador. His voice came through a translator device. "That's impossible. We destroyed them 50,000 years ago." "The message is authentic," said the Vex representative. Her crystal body pulsed with worried orange light. "Our experts confirm it. These are human ships, human technology." "How can they be this advanced?" asked another voice. This was from a species called the Moth, peaceful beings who had joined the Council only 5,000 years ago. "We have the best technology in the galaxy." "Apparently not," muttered someone else. The Council chamber erupted into arguments. Some species demanded immediate military action. Others called for negotiation. A few, the ones who had been members when Earth died, looked genuinely afraid. In a dark corner of the chamber, an old recording played on a private screen. It showed Earth burning, oceans boiling away, continents cracking apart. The viewer was a Krill elder who had been young when the vote happened. He had voted yes, thinking humanity was too dangerous to exist. Now, watching that recording, he wondered if they had made a terrible mistake. Meanwhile, Officer was inside the Council's computer network. Not physically, of course. Her consciousness, translated into digital form, moved through their systems like a ghost. It was technology the Council didn't even dream was possible. She found what she was looking for in the historical archives. "Got it," she said back on her ship. Her body sat in a special chair, connected to quantum computers. "I have the complete records from 50,000 years ago." Commander Han leaned over her shoulder. He was the fleet's strategic officer, responsible for planning every move of the war. "How many species voted to destroy Earth?" 12, replied. 12 species were Council members back then, and all 12 voted yes. The other 35 species joined the Council afterward. Han smiled grimly. So most of the current Council had nothing to do with Earth's destruction. "Exactly," pulled up the data. "These 12 species made the decision. The rest are innocent at least of that crime." "This changes everything," Han said. He immediately called Captain. On the flagship, listened to Han's report carefully. Commander Ara stood beside him, along with several other senior officers. 12 guilty species, repeated, and 35 innocent ones. "We could divide them," Han suggested. "Make the Council turn on itself, offer peace to the 35 if they abandon the 12. "That's manipulative," Ara said, but she didn't sound disapproving. She sounded interested. "The Council manipulated Earth into revealing our location," replied. "They pretended to be our friends, then destroyed us. I think we can forgive ourselves for being a little manipulative in return." He thought about it carefully. Humanity had the power to destroy the entire Council. Their weapons, their technology, their ships, everything was superior. They could burn every Council world to ashes and sleep soundly afterward. But that would make them no better than the Council itself. "We give them a choice," decided. "The 35 innocent species can have peace. They can even join us in building something better, but the 12 guilty ones must surrender their leaders for trial." "And if they refuse?" Ara asked. Then we show them that 50,000 years of preparation was not wasted. Prepared a message. This one would be broadcast to every planet in Council space, every ship, every station. No one would be able to ignore it. In the message, he listed the names of the 12 species who had voted to destroy Earth. He explained that these species, and only these species, were humanity's targets. The others could choose peace. "We are not monsters," said in the message. "We do not want to become what you feared, but justice will be served. The 12 guilty species will answer for genocide. Everyone else can choose which side they stand on." The message was sent. Within hours, the Galactic Council began to tear itself apart from the inside. Ambassador Sara stood before the council chamber, knowing that billions of beings across the galaxy were watching. She was humanity's voice, chosen for her calm wisdom and perfect understanding of galactic politics. "The 12 species who destroyed Earth have 3 days to respond," she said clearly. "Surrender your government leaders for trial. Face justice for the 7 billion lives you took. Do this, and the war ends peacefully." "And if we refuse," shouted the Krill ambassador. His insect legs clicked angrily against the floor. Sara's face remained neutral. "Then you will learn why humanity survived for 50,000 years while you grew comfortable and weak." The council chamber exploded into chaos. The 12 guilty species screamed that they wouldn't bow to terrorists. The 35 innocent species demanded to know why they should fight humanity's war for crimes they never committed. Within an hour, the vote came. The 35 innocent species voted to withdraw from military action. Some even voted to open negotiations with humanity. The council, which had stood together for 50,000 years, broke apart like glass. The 12 guilty species formed their own alliance. They called themselves the Defense Pact, though everyone knew they were the ones who had committed genocide. They began gathering their military forces, preparing for war. They thought their numbers would be enough. They were wrong. Field Commander Jin stood on the bridge of his assault ship. Unlike the massive warships, his vessel was small and fast, designed for surgical strikes. Around him floated a fleet of 50 similar ships, each carrying elite soldiers. "Target confirmed," said his tactical officer. "Krill Military Command Center on there." "How many civilians in the area?" Jin asked. "The building is isolated. No civilian presence within 5 kilometers." "Good." Jin had no desire to harm innocents. "All ships begin approach. Remember, disable, not destroy. We want prisoners, not bodies." The assault fleet dropped from faster-than-light speed directly above the Krill. The planet's defense systems never saw them coming. By the time alarms started blaring, Jin's ships were already landing. The Krill Military Command Center was a massive building made of the same hard material as krill shells. It was supposed to be invincible. Jin's soldiers cut through the walls like they were paper. They moved through the building with perfect efficiency. Every krill soldier who raised a weapon found themselves paralyzed by stun fields. Every computer system was hacked and shut down. In 15 minutes, Jin's team had captured the entire Krill military high command. Not a single person died. "Target secured," Jin reported, bringing them back for trial. It was the same across all 12 guilty worlds. Human strike teams appeared without warning, captured military leaders, and vanished before any real defense could form. The Council had never seen warfare like this. The Battle of Krill Prime came 3 days later. The 12 guilty species assembled their largest battle fleet, over 5,000 ships. They surrounded the Krill, determined to protect it from further human attacks. Captain brought 200 human warships to face them. The Council fleet opened fire first. Thousands of energy weapons lit up space, enough firepower to destroy a small moon. The beams struck the human ships and simply vanished, absorbed by shield technology that bent the weapons into other dimensions. Their weapons are like toys, Commander Ara observed. Return fire, ordered. Disable only, no-kill shots. The human fleet responded, but they didn't use simple energy weapons. Their guns fired quantum disruption beams that reached inside enemy ships and shut down every system simultaneously. Ship after ship went dark, floating helplessly in space. In 20 minutes, half the Council fleet was disabled. The other half tried to run. "Let them go," said. "They need to tell the others what happened here." But not everyone was impressed by mercy. On a small observation ship hidden in the asteroid belt, a young member of a species called the watched the battle. Her name was, and she was only 20 years old by galactic standard. There were peaceful beings forced into the Council 30 years ago. They had never wanted to join, but the Council didn't give them a choice. Now, watching humanity fight with such precision and restraint, saw hope. She sent a secret message to Ambassador Sora. "Many species in the Council are prisoners, not members. If you truly fight for justice, help us be free." When Sora received the message, she brought it directly to. "This changes things," said Reading's message. "We assumed the Council was unified, but they're not. They're an empire that forces species to join. The 35 innocent species aren't just innocent of Earth's destruction," Ara added. "Some of them are victims too. Made a decision. We're not just fighting for revenge anymore. We're fighting for every species the Council has oppressed." He sent a new message across the galaxy. This one promised protection to any species that wanted to leave the Council. Humanity would guarantee their safety and their freedom. The response was immediate. 6 species declared independence from the Council within a day, then 12 more, then 20. The Council was falling apart. Pilot was one of humanity's best at flying small, fast ships. Her mission was different from the others. She was hunting war criminals who tried to run. Her current target was a Vex general who had personally ordered the destruction of Earth's oceans. Intelligence said he was trying to escape to the edge of the galaxy. "Found him," said, tracking the energy signature of his ship. "He's fast, but not fast enough." She engaged the quantum drive and appeared directly in front of the fleeing vessel. The Vex general's ship had nowhere to go. "General," said over the communication channel, "by the authority of the Human Defense Fleet, you are under arrest for crimes against humanity. Surrender peacefully, or I will disable your ship and take you by force." The Vex general tried to fight. His ship fired every weapon it had. Shields didn't even flicker. "Wrong choice," she said, and fired a single shot. The general's ship went dark. She tractored it into her cargo bay and headed back to the fleet. This was justice, not revenge, not murder, justice. Meanwhile, medical officer, named after her famous ancestor, worked in a field hospital on a planet caught in the fighting. The local population was suffering from the war and made sure they received treatment regardless of which side they were on. "You're treating our enemies?" asked a young human soldier, confused. "I'm treating people who are hurt," replied, bandaging a wounded moth civilian. "That's what doctors do. That's what separates us from the Council that destroyed Earth." The soldier watched her work and slowly nodded. He understood. Humanity wasn't here to become monsters. They were here to prove they were better than that. Word of hospital spread quickly. Civilians from dozens of species came seeking help, and she turned no one away. It became a symbol that humanity had changed during their 50,000 years away. They had grown stronger, yes, but they had also grown wiser. By the end of the month, 3 of the 12 guilty species surrendered completely. Their governments collapsed under internal pressure as their own people demanded peace. They handed over their leaders for trial and begged humanity for mercy. Granted it, the war criminals would face justice, but the innocent citizens would be left alone. 9 species remained in the Defense Pact, determined to fight to the end. They gathered their forces for one final, desperate stand. They still believed they could win. They still believed their numbers would overcome humanity's technology. They were about to learn how wrong they were. Supreme Commander Sung stood before the holographic display showing the entire galaxy. He was humanity's highest military authority, a man who had spent his whole life preparing for this war. Now, in what should have been humanity's moment of triumph, he faced the greatest danger yet. "They've activated the doomsday weapons," reported intelligence officer. Her voice was tight with worry. Sung stared at the display. Red markers appeared across 9 different star systems, of the remaining guilty species. Each marker represented a weapon powerful enough to destroy a planet. "How many?" Sung asked quietly. 18 planet killers, replied. "The same type of weapons they used on Earth 50,000 years ago. They've kept them in secret storage all this time." Commander Ara slammed her fist on the console. "They're threatening to destroy their own worlds if we don't back down. They're using their own people as hostages." "No," said Engineer, studying the weapon signatures. He was humanity's leading expert on ancient technology. "These weapons aren't aimed at there. Look at the targeting data." He pulled up the information. Everyone on the bridge went silent. The planet killers were aimed at the 35 innocent species who had withdrawn from the Council. They were aimed at civilian populations that had nothing to do with the war. "They're monsters," someone whispered. Sung's face remained calm, but his hands clenched into fists. "How long until the weapons can fire?" 72 hours, said. "They need time to charge, but once they fire, those planets will die. Billions of innocent people." "Can we stop them?" "The weapons are hidden in asteroid fields and nebulas. We'd need to find all 18 locations and disable them simultaneously. If even one survives, millions die." Sung turned to the bridge crew. Every face showed the same determination. They had come 50,000 years for justice. They wouldn't let innocent people pay the price. "Find those weapons," Sung ordered. "We have 3 days to save billions of lives." Engineer worked around the clock, analyzing every piece of data they had on the planet killers. His team of specialists searched through human archives, looking for any information that might help. What they found made sick to his stomach. "Commander Sung," he called over the communication channel, "I need you to see this immediately." When Sung arrived at the engineering bay, showed him a holographic blueprint of the planet killer weapons. But the writing on the blueprint wasn't in any council language. It was in English, human English. "These weapons were designed by humans," said, his voice hollow. "During Earth's final years, when we were developing defenses against possible alien threats, the Council stole the blueprints when they destroyed Earth." Sung stared at the evidence. Humanity's own weapons, used to destroy there, and now those same weapons threatened innocent lives. "So they killed us with our own technology," Sung said softly, "and now they'll use it again." "Yes," replied, "but there's good news. Since we designed these weapons, I know exactly how they work. I know their weaknesses, and I know how to disable them." For the first time in days, Sung smiled. "Then let's turn this around. Find me their locations, all of them." Specialist Ara led the commando team chosen for the most dangerous mission in human history. She had 200 of the best soldiers humanity could offer, divided into 18 strike teams. Each team would assault one planet-killer weapon. "Remember," Ara said during the briefing, "these weapons are heavily guarded. The enemy knows we'll try to stop them. They'll fight with everything they have." "We're ready," said one of the soldiers. Ara nodded. She knew they were, but being ready didn't mean no one would die. The 18 strike teams deployed simultaneously, using quantum drives to appear directly next to their targets. The element of surprise lasted about 3 seconds before enemy forces opened fire. Ara's team materialized inside an asteroid field near a krill weapon facility. The base was carved into a massive rock, protected by shields and automated defenses. Hundreds of Krill soldiers waited inside. "Move fast," Ara commanded. "We have 30 minutes before the weapon charges to critical levels." Her team cut through the outer defenses like they weren't there. Human technology was simply too advanced, but once they reached the interior, the fighting got brutal. The Krill knew they were fighting for their last chance at victory. Ara lost 3 soldiers in the first corridor. Good people, humans who had trained their whole lives for this moment. She pushed down her grief and kept moving forward. 10 minutes, Engineer's voice crackled over the radio. "You need to reach the core in 10 minutes." Ara's team fought through chamber after chamber. The Krill defended every meter, knowing that if humanity succeeded, their rebellion was over. But human soldiers were faster, smarter, and better equipped. "Core room ahead," Ara called out. She kicked open the door and found herself facing the planet-killer weapon itself. It was enormous, a machine of death designed by human minds and built by human hands 50,000 years ago. "I'm sorry," Ara whispered to her ancestors. "Sorry we ever made this." Then she placed the quantum disruptor on the weapon's power core and activated it. Across the galaxy, 18 commando teams fought the same desperate battle. Some succeeded easily, others paid a terrible price. Commander monitored all 18 missions from the flagship, watching as red markers turned green one by one. 15 weapons disabled, 16, 17. But the 18th weapon wouldn't go down. "Team 7 is taking heavy casualties," reported a communications officer. "They're pinned down outside the core room. The weapon will fire in 3 minutes." Made the hardest decision of his life. Tell all nearby ships to evacuate the civilian population from the target planet. Get as many out as you can. "Sir, 3 minutes isn't enough time to save everyone." "I know," shouted. Then quieter, "I know, but we save who we can." Human ships appeared in orbit around the threatened world, a planet inhabited by a peaceful species called the Bright Ones. Emergency evacuation procedures began. Ships landed in cities, on farms, anywhere there were people. Civilians rushed aboard, terrified and confused. 2 minutes, someone said. 1 million evacuated. 2 million, 3 million. 1 minute. 5 million people saved, but the planet held 800 million. "Team 7 reports the weapon is about to fire," the communications officer said. "They can't stop it." Closed his eyes. This was the price of war. This was why he hated it, even when it was necessary. Then a new voice came over the radio. It was the pilot. I'm at the weapon site. My ship has a quantum drive capable of creating a spatial bubble. I can contain the blast." "That will destroy your ship. You'll die." "I know, sir." His voice was calm. "But 800 million people will live. That's a good trade." Before could respond, engaged his ship's quantum drive at maximum power. Space itself bent around the planet-killer weapon. When it fired, the massive beam of destructive energy hit the spatial bubble and collapsed inward, contained. Ship caught in the middle, disintegrated instantly. But the planet below remained untouched. 800 million people who would have died continued living, never knowing how close they came to extinction. When the fighting ended, all 18 weapons were destroyed or disabled. The 9 remaining guilty species had played their final card and lost. Commander Ara returned to the flagship with her surviving team members. She had started the mission with 12 soldiers. She came back with 7. "We stopped them," she reported to Sung. "All weapons are offline. 0 civilian casualties on the target worlds." "Except for our own people," Sung replied quietly. He pulled up the casualty list. 48 human soldiers died in the operations, 48 people who would never go home. And the pilot who sacrificed himself to save millions. "They were heroes," Ara said. "Yes," Sung agreed, "and we'll make sure everyone remembers them." The 9 remaining guilty species watched their last hope crumble. Their weapon threat had failed. Their military forces were shattered. Their allies had abandoned them. Even their own civilian populations were turning against them, demanding they surrender. The war was nearly over. But the hardest part was still ahead, deciding what justice really meant. Admiral walked through the ruins of the Council High Chamber. The building still stood, but it was empty now. The representatives had fled, the government had collapsed, and the Galactic Council that had ruled for 50,000 years existed no more. His boots echoed on the marble floor as he approached the center of the chamber. This was where they had voted. This was where 47 species had raised their hands and condemned humanity to death. 12 of those species had paid the price for that decision. Commander Ara joined him, looking up at the empty seats that circled the chamber. "It's over," she said. "The last of the 9 guilty species surrendered this morning. Their military leaders are in custody. Their governments have fallen." "And their people?" asked. "Asking for mercy, asking for a chance to rebuild." Nodded slowly. This was the moment he had dreaded, the moment when vengeance became a choice instead of a necessity. "What do we do with them, sir?" Ara asked. "The people want justice. Our people, the ones who waited 50,000 years for this moment, they want to see the guilty punished." "They will be," he said, "but not their children, not innocent people who had nothing to do with Earth's destruction." He turned to face Ara. "We're better than the Council. We have to be, or what was the point of surviving?" Ambassador Sara stood before the new assembly that was forming. It wasn't the Galactic Council anymore. That organization had died, poisoned by its own corruption and tyranny. This was something different, something better. Representatives from 47 species filled the room, but the mood was different now. The 12 guilty species sat apart, their representatives silent and ashamed. The 35 innocent species sat together, hopeful and ready for change. And in the center, representing humanity for the first time in 50,000 years, sat Sora. "We gather today to discuss justice," she began. Her voice carried across the chamber. "Not revenge, not punishment for the sake of pain, but real justice." She pulled up a holographic display showing the faces of the military and political leaders who had ordered Earth's destruction. Some were dead now, killed in the fighting. Others sat in detention cells, waiting for trial. "These individuals will face war crimes tribunals," Sara continued. "They will answer for genocide. They will spend the rest of their lives paying for what they did." "And what about us?" asked a Krill representative. She was young, maybe only 20 years old by their species measure. "What happens to those of us who weren't alive when Earth died? We're still Krill. We still belong to one of the guilty species." Sara looked at her with understanding. "You did nothing wrong, your government did. Your ancestors did, but you're innocent. So we're forgiven." The Krill representative sounded shocked. "Forgiveness isn't mine to give," Sora said honestly. "That belongs to humanity as a whole, but I can tell you what I think. I think that children shouldn't pay for their parents' crimes. I think that every species deserves a chance to be better." She turned to address the whole assembly. The Galactic Council ruled through fear and force. They made species join whether they wanted to or not. They destroyed entire civilizations because they were afraid of competition. Sara's voice grew stronger. "We won't rebuild that system. Today we start something new. A true union of species where membership is voluntary, where every species has equal say, where no one can destroy another out of fear." "And who leads this union?" asked a representative from the moth species. "No one," Sora replied. "And everyone, we all lead together. We all share power equally." The chamber filled with surprised murmurs. This was revolutionary. The council had always been dominated by the strongest species. The idea that everyone could be equal seemed impossible. But humanity had 50,000 years to think about how civilization should work. They had learned from Earth's mistakes and the Council's tyranny. "We call it the Galactic Union," Sora said, "and it starts today." Fleet Captain Jin oversaw the dismantling of the Council's military infrastructure. Massive weapons platforms that had kept species in line were carefully destroyed. Warships that once enforced tyranny were stripped of weapons and converted to cargo vessels. "Sir," said one of his officers, "some species are asking if they can keep a small defense force. They're worried about being defenseless." "Of course they can," Jin replied. "We're not here to make them helpless. We're here to make sure no one can use military might to oppress others." He watched as a massive exploded in controlled demolition. The Council had built it to threaten entire solar systems. Now it was space debris. "The universe doesn't need weapons like these," Jin said. "Not anymore." Doctor stood on the surface of a new world in Earth's old solar system. Mars had always been too cold for human life in the old days, but with 50,000 years of terraforming technology, humanity had transformed it. Now it had blue skies and green forests. Rivers flowed through valleys. Birds brought from haven sang in the trees. It was beautiful. They called it New Earth. "It's not the same," said Commander Aura, standing beside. "Nothing can replace the original." "No," agreed, "but it's home, a new home built on the ashes of the old one." Above them, in orbit, construction crews worked on a massive structure. It would become a memorial to the 7 billion humans who died when Earth burned. A sphere of light, visible from every planet in the system. "Every name," said, watching the construction. "We're putting every name we have records for on that memorial, so they're never forgotten." "And our people who died in the war?" Ara asked. "The ones like them too. Everyone who fell will be remembered." Pulled up a holographic list on her tablet. It showed the names of human casualties from the war. 48 soldiers who died disabling the planet-killer weapons. 112 who fell in various battles. 300 wounded. Small numbers compared to the 7 billion lost on Earth, but each one was a life that mattered. "They paid the price so we could have justice," said quietly. "The least we can do is remember them forever." On a distant station, Specialist sat across from a young alien. His name was, and he was one of the first members of a species that had never known humans existed before the war. "So your planet was really destroyed?" asked, fascinated. "Completely," replied. "Turned to molten rock. Everything we built, everyone we loved, gone in hours." "And you came back for revenge?" "We came back for justice," corrected. "There's a difference. Revenge is about making yourself feel better. Justice is about making sure it never happens again." Thought about that. His species had joined the Council only 1,000 years ago. They had never been told about Earth, never knew humanity once existed. The Council had erased humans from history like they never mattered. "I'm glad you survived," said finally. "And I'm glad you came back. The Council needed to end. A lot of species were suffering under their rule." Smiled. Then maybe something good came from all this. Maybe Earth's death meant something after all. Admiral stood before the memorial in Earth's orbit. The sphere of light was complete now, shining like a small sun. Inside, holographic displays showed the faces and names of every human lost in Earth's destruction. 7 billion names. It would take a lifetime to read them all. "We came back," said quietly, speaking to the dead. "We won, but we didn't become what you feared. We didn't become monsters." Commander Aura stood beside him. "We became better," she said. Nodded. "The Council thought humanity was dangerous because we were aggressive and adaptable. They were right, we are dangerous. But we're also capable of mercy, of justice, of building something better than what came before." He thought about the 50,000 years humanity had spent in exile. All the generations who lived and died on Haven. knowing they would never see justice for Earth. All the children who grew up with stories of a blue world they could never visit. They would be proud, Ara said, reading his thoughts. Everyone who came before us, they'd be proud of what we built. I hope so, replied. Below them on New Earth, the first Galactic Union Assembly was taking place. 47 species gathered together as equals, making laws together, building a future together. It wasn't perfect. There would be conflicts, disagreements, problems, but it was better than the tyranny of the Council. And humanity would be there to make sure it stayed that way. The final scene took place in a small park on New Earth. A human child named ran through the grass, laughing. Chasing her was a young moth, one of the peaceful species that had suffered under Council rule. They played together, innocent and happy. Supreme Commander Sung watched them from a bench nearby. He was old now, tired from the war and the rebuilding. But seeing those children play filled him with hope. "Is this what we fought for?" asked a voice beside him. Sung turned. It was a young soldier, barely out of training. He had been too young to fight in the war, but he wore the uniform proudly. "Yes," Sung said, watching the children. "This is exactly what we fought for. A future where humans and aliens can be friends, where no one destroys another out of fear, where children can play together without worrying about war." "Do you think it will last?" the soldier asked. Sung smiled. "I think we'll make it last. Humanity didn't survive 50,000 years just to let the galaxy fall apart again. We're here to stay, and we're here to make sure everyone gets to live in peace." The children's laughter echoed across the park. Above them, the memorial sphere shone in orbit, remembering the past. But here on the ground, life went on. People built homes and planted gardens. Species that once fought now worked together. Humanity had returned to the stars, not as conquerors, not as monsters, but as guardians of a better future. And that, Sung thought, was the best revenge of all, proving that the Council had been wrong about everything.